Any other points? Okay. So,
Prabhuji, sorry,
yeah.
one thing I want to ask. I have written Brahman Krishna. That's all I have written. So is Krishna known as Brahman? I don't know what context I wrote it.
That was a first line of discussion from the purport that we were discussing. Everything is Brahman. So,
Okay.
and Brahman is actually nothing but Krishna only. The effulgence from the body of Krishna is Brahman, Brahman Jyoti actually. So, Brahman is referred to Supreme Personality of God himself. Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll start with today's verse, which is the 12th verse from the 5th chapter. So, like you all said, so first verse, 10th verse speaks about how we need to perform our duty without attachment, surrendering the results to Krishna. And then such a person is unaffected by sinful action. And very similar verses there today also, the 12th verse. And then we saw how a yogi is abandoning attachment and he uses all his body, mind, and senses for the purpose of purification. So this chapter is entitled Karma Yoga, Action in Krishna Consciousness. So we are discussing how we need to act. Okay, what our activities should be like, and who actually is performing actions. Are we the real doers? Are we the real people? The cause of action. Is God the cause of action? We're going to discuss some of these things today. Because very often, people say, "Why is there suffering in this world?" Although I do good to others and I've uh, been nice all throughout my life, still I'm suffering so much. Why does God give so much suffering? This is the question very often in the minds of people. Or sometimes someone may say that uh, I'm not responsible. God is the one who sanctions everything. Like we say, a blade, not even a blade of grass moves without the will of the Lord. So yes, the Supreme Lord gives sanction to all our desires. So is God responsible then for everything good and bad that is happening? That also we'll be discussing today. So these are some interesting verses we'll be discussing today. So we'll start with verse number 12, which is the verse now on the screen. So you can try and recite. Yukta karam phalam tyaktva.
Karam phalam tyakva.
Yukta karma phalam tyaktva. Shantim apnoti naishtikim. Ayuktah kamakarena. Phale shakto nibhadyate. Yukta karma phalam tyaktva. Shantim apnoti naishtikim. Ayuktah kamakarena. Phale shakto nibhadyate. Would someone like to lead the recitation of the verse?
Shall I, Prabhuji? Shall I do it?
Yes, Guruji. And we'll repeat.
Yukta karma phalam tyaktva.
Phalam tyaktva.
Karma phalam tyaktva. Shanti. Tyaktva, no? Tyaktva.
Tyaktva. Yeah, Guruji, you can recite one line. We'll repeat after you.
Okay. Yukta karma phalam tyaktva.
Yukta karma phalam tyaktva.
Shantim apnoti naistikin.
Shantim apnoti naishtikim.
Ayukta kamakarena.
Ayuktah kamakarena.
Phale satto nibhadyate.
Phale shakto nibhadyate. Very nice, Guruji. Thank you. Would someone else also like to try?
Can I read the translation, Prabhuji?
Before that, anyone like to recite the words? Anyone?
Yeah, Prabhuji. Yukta karm phalam युक्का शांति प्रमोति निष्ठिकीम
Shanti
का काम करण फले सक्तो निबंधते
Ayukta Kama Karena Pare Shakto Nibadha.
युक्ते काम फलम त्यक्ता शांति प्रमोति निष्ठिकीम अयुक्ता काम करण फले सक्तो निबंधते.
Yes, very nice. Suji. Yes, Suji, you may read the translation.
Yes, sir. The steadily devoted soul attains unadulterated peace because he offers the result of all activities to me. Whereas a person who is not in union with the divine, who is greedy for the fruits of his labor, becomes entangled.
In the Bhagavad Gita, there are many verses which speak about peace. Not one, there are many verses which in fact speak about peace and the peace formula. And we are all looking for peace in this world. So there is one such verse now again we are reading today, that the steadily devoted soul attains unadulterated peace. Unadulterated means that there is no milawat, it's pure peace, because he offers the results of all activities to me. So how do we attain peace? This formula is given here. The idea is that we work, and when we work in this world, the results of all our work should be offered to the Lord. What is the other thing that can happen? Whereas a person who is not in union with the divine, who is greedy for the fruits of his labor, becomes entangled. So two things are there. Whenever we work, the results are going to come, right? And if we are going to be very much attached to the results, trying to get the results, then we will not be peaceful. Whereas if we just work for the reason that whatever results I get from this work, I'm going to offer this to the Lord, then we'll actually become peaceful. That is what this verse says. Now, what happens when one works with the desire for fruits? Let's say I work with the intention that after I do this work, I get some, fruits in return. I work very hard, and when I work very hard, I'll get some money, or I'll get some, I'll have some good bank balance. I'll, buy a house, I'll buy a car, I'll buy this or that, or whatever. And I'm working very hard with the intention that whatever results I get from my work, I will be able to get myself certain things in this world, whether it's material comfort or material things or anything else. So when the intention behind my work is that I will get something in return and I will use it for my own self, then there will always obviously be some anxiety, anxiousness. Because if I do not get what I want, then I'll be miserable. Then I'll feel that, all my, effort has gone in vain. I worked so hard for getting something, but eventually I did not get it. So there will always be some anxiousness, right? So for example, man who is, who's a businessman, and let's say he owns a restaurant, and he's at the end of the day, he always wants to see how much money is collected at the end of the day, because he's running a big restaurant. So if there are regular customers, people coming to have food at his restaurant, then, he's very much anxious to see that the business should not go down. And if let's say there is some corona period where, the restaurants are shut, then what will happen? Immediately there is anxiousness. People are not coming to restaurants, or restaurants are shut, or there is very little crowd that is coming. Then he's very, very anxious. Why? Because he knows that because people are not coming, then whatever money I'm getting is very less as compared to what he's supposed to get. So that anxiety grows, in that person. It's very natural because he's attached to the results. Obviously, why not? Because he's opened a restaurant and it's meant for a purpose, that is to, get some money from it. So there is direct relation between our anxiety and the fruit. Right? Now, this verse says that this fruit that we are going to get from our activities, if we actually want peace, then our fruit should be offered to the Lord. And if the fruits are offered to the Lord, then we will not be so much anxious. So if in the same restaurant there is a person who is a cashier, he's appointed by the owner of the restaurant, and every day he's counting money. So sometimes there is, a lot of money that is collected at the end of the day. Does the cashier become happy because he's collected a lot of money? No, because it doesn't belong to him anyway. He's just there sitting and collecting money. And if there is, some days where very few people visited, does he get affected by it, thinking that, oh, we did not earn so much today? No, he's going to get his salary anyway. And whatever earning is coming is going to the owner. If there is less, he is not affected by it anyway, because he's just meant there to do a job, that is to count money. And that is all. So for such a person, who knows that anyways, whatever is coming is not mine, and whatever is coming is to be used in the service of the Lord. For such a person, he will not be anxious, he will not be full of anxiety, and he's not attached to his work, the results of his work. And he knows that whatever comes, I'm going to use it in Krishna's service. So if I get less, whatever I get with that, I'll use it for the Lord, service of the Lord. If I get more, then that is also good. I'll use that in the service of the Lord. So he is not working with the idea that I will get some money to satisfy my own senses. And that is where then this unadulterated peace comes in. Okay. So we'll read a little bit from the purport to understand this better. So difference between a person in Krishna consciousness and a person in worldly consciousness is that the former is attached to Krishna, whereas the latter is attached to the results of his activities. It's a very profound statement, this first line in the purport. So very clearly it tells the difference between who is Krishna conscious and who is not. It says that the Krishna conscious person is attached to Krishna. His attachment is not to money. His attachment is not to the results. His attachment is to Krishna. Whereas a person who is in bodily consciousness, what is his attachment to? Everything in relation to the body. So because he thinks that I'm the body, therefore whatever this body needs, it is sense gratification or my bodily relations, and their fulfillment. So whatever is there in connection to the body, he feels that is very important for him. Krishna is aside. I am the body, and whatever is there in relation to my body is very, very important to me. So he feels like that. So latter is attached to the results of his activities. The person who is attached to Krishna and works for him only is certainly a liberated person, and he has no anxiety over the results of his work. In the Bhagavatam, the cause of anxiety over the result of an activity is explained as being one's functioning in the conception of duality, that is, knowledge without the knowledge of the absolute truth. Krishna is the supreme absolute truth, the personality of Godhead. In Krishna consciousness, there is no duality. All that exists is a product of Krishna's energy, and Krishna is all good. Therefore, activities in Krishna consciousness are on the absolute plane. They are transcendental and have no material effect. One is therefore filled with peace in Krishna consciousness. But one who is entangled in profit calculation for sense gratification cannot have that peace. Again, a very important line. One who is entangled in profit calculation for sense gratification cannot have that peace. This is the secret of the Krishna consciousness. That realization that there is no existence beside Krishna is the platform of peace and fearlessness. Okay, so a couple of very important lines we read. So one who entangled in profit calculation for sense gratification cannot have that peace. You might have seen sometimes, these big businessmen, they're very busy counting notes. And if at all, go in a place where, all these business shops are there. I do not know if you all have been. So there is a whole market. And when you go in that market, and there are shops next to each other, and probably they are, selling the same thing in that market. So you can literally see what is the consciousness of people who are, these shopkeepers, the owners there. Their talks are only revolving around, what is the profit, what is the market situation like, how many clients are coming, not coming. So this is just to explain the consciousness. So it doesn't have to be necessarily a businessman. It could be anyone for that matter. But when one is engaged in profit calculation, that how much I'm able to gratify my senses, am I able to afford myself, some luxury, some comfort, so that, I can see things which are very beautiful, which I can taste things which are very nice to taste. I can hear some nice music. So all these senses, they desire something. So if I'm able to get something for my senses, a person who is busy in calculating profit in that respect, he cannot have peace. So uh, in our destiny, certain things are fixed. There is the amount of wealth that we'll have, the beauty that we have, the intelligence that we have, they're all fixed already based on our past karma. So which means that sometimes no matter how hard you work, you will only get whatever you're supposed to get, you're destined to get. And even if you think that I'll work very hard and I'll get so much more, you may get it also and it will go away also through some or the other means. Because if you're not destined to enjoy that much, then you will not get it. So the whole purpose of human life and human existence is for a higher purpose. And that is that I have got this human form of life, and that should be used for cultivating Krishna consciousness. That is the only business of that one has in the human form of life. That's the only thing. Everything else Krishna takes care of. If we take care of this one single purpose, that is how I become more Krishna conscious, how I can spiritually elevate myself, then everything else Krishna takes care of. So even the animals, they are not working very hard trying to maintain themselves. Srila Prabhupada would give the example that the elephants, the huge elephants in the African forest, they are also being maintained. Right? From the elephants down to the ant, everyone is being maintained. So if everyone is being maintained, then what to speak of those who are trying to practice Krishna consciousness, those who are devotees? Will Krishna not maintain them? So our attachment, if we turn towards Krishna, then Krishna will take care of everything else that we need. Like elsewhere in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that to those who are who are devoted to me, I carry what they lack and I preserve what they have. So whatever we have, Krishna will preserve. And even if we lack something, then Krishna will provide that. Now, this all is not to say that we are supposed to stop working. Yes, we continue our work, but that work should be with the intention that whatever fruits I get, I use it in Krishna's service. If that is the goal, then we will be peaceful. Otherwise, if we try to work very hard in this world, trying to get an edge over people around us, our family, our relatives, our neighbors, then we'll always be miserable. So if one is conscious, one's consciousness is steeped into thinking that how I can become very great in this world and trying to adjust the material situation, then he is surely going to be bound up. He's going to be entangled, like this verse says. So one who is greedy for the fruits of his labor becomes entangled. So this is the verse that we just read. Ruji, you like to add anything?
I would like to show something.
Yes, Ruji.
So I think Krishna, he basically in this verse is giving peace formula, and a lot of places in Bhagavad Gita gives peace formula. So I'm sorry, but a very recent example, which I would want to show. Is that possible?
Yes, Ruji.
Okay. Okay. Just tell me if the audio is not clear, then maybe I can forward this video later.
You can share the audio, Ruji, while sharing screen. I think that'll.
I have done that, but I'm just saying maybe if it doesn't play well, then just let me know.
Especially for English-speaking devotees. I'm Rajagopal Das from Ukraine, from Kiev. Behind me, you can see the biggest temple in Europe, Hare Krishna temple. And many devotees from different countries asking me what is going on, what is the situation in Kiev. And now is 25th, more than 25th of February. And now more or less situation among devotees is stable, no victims. You see first floor or ground floor anyway, we are preparing our temple just for bombing, potential bombing. And Of course, everyone is afraid, everyone is disturbed, and we are very grateful to you, all the devotees, for your prayers, for your mercy, and we really want to ask you for your blessings just for remembering Krishna. We absolutely do not know what is going on because we do not trust our news, but it is really dangerous. Every morning, every day, sirens are loudly chanting their mantras around the Kiev. And as far as we know, that the Kiev, capital of Ukraine, is the main point of Putin. So at this moment, everything is stable. I hope that by Krishna's mercy, we will keep our Krishna consciousness and can be helpful to Srila Prabhupada in preaching in this very panic situation which is around among the population of Ukraine. So please let us receive your blessings just to be merciful instruments in the hands of Srila Prabhupada during this dangerous time. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
So, Rose, you would like to comment, and then I'll just put some points forward.
You can speak, Rudy.
नमस्कार दोस्तों, पिछले
Oh,
कुछ समय से
sorry.
जो
Sorry. So, why I pulled out this example? This was just a video released yesterday, right? And you see the person who is speaking, and at the end of the day, what is he asking? He's not saying, "Arey, save us," or he's not. He does. Although there is a panic situation, he himself did not look really so much in panic. He's looked less affected, more peaceful, rather. Simply describing what the situation is, and at the same time, he is seeking blessings so that he can remember Krishna, no matter what the situation is. Right? There's bombing, etc., happening. But what is he praying for, or what is he requesting everyone for, is blessing so that they can remember Krishna and be instruments in the hand of Srila Prabhupada. So that's the consciousness of a devotee, even in such a dire situation. So even in, I mean, I would have just ran out of the country, or may not be in such a peaceful condition like he was able to do this. So just a good example. I mean, in crisis, actually, the example is that when you squeeze a lemon, what comes out?
Juice.
Lemon juice, right? It cannot be mango juice. It cannot be orange juice. When you squeeze an orange juice will come out. When you squeeze a mango juice will come out. So whatever is inside, right? In the time of difficult situation, right? When you're squeezed, comes out, right? If you're filled with anger, hatred, jealousy, anxiety, stress, etc. When you're pushed up against difficult situation, that will come out. You'll be shouting, yelling, screeching, etc. But if you're filled with peace, filled with Krishna consciousness, filled with love for God, right? Like this video is a brilliant example, I would say. I mean, the situation is terrible. I feel my heart goes out to them, but at the same time, this struck me so strongly that at the end of the day, what is coming out even in the situation is the want for remembering the Lord. Roji. Yeah.
Thank you, Rudy, for sharing such a wonderful example. This is a desire of the devotee to always think of Krishna and remember Krishna. And so long that happens, then the devotee is not so much worried. So anyone has any questions on what we discussed? Because it's a very important verse and very practical also. It applies to each one of us. So any comments or questions on this verse?
Yeah, Prabhuji, this anxiety, especially when you refer to this business and all that, it's true, it happens. Like when you start making losses, you've got to pay salaries to your employees and all that. These things come. But now, of course, I've seen this video and all that. So what we have to do is be in Krishna consciousness and pray to him for the good times to come. Because this happens in business, as you rightly said, You got to pay salaries, your rent, and all those things, and you start making losses. That creates lots of anxiety. And so I think that's what these videos will not say, that you keep praying to the Lord for the good times to come.
Yes, so anxiety will be there, and uh, so Vaikuntha, when we say that Kuntha, there means anxiety, and the spiritual world, which is Vaikuntha, means without anxiety. So no one in this world can actually say, in the material world, can say that I'm without anxiety. Whether one is a businessman or he's doing a job or whatever he may be doing, he may be having all material comforts, he may be having wealth, and still he'll be having reasons to be anxious. He'll be having reasons to be miserable. So it may be something else. It may be relationship. It may be, uh, some mental, trauma or whatever. So that anxiety is supposed to be there in this material world, and that is put. Why it is put? So that the living entity turns towards Krishna. He doesn't try to become happy and sit. Try and adjust the material situation. So in this world, we are always trying to reduce suffering and increasing our happiness. So in other words, we are trying to adjust the situation in materially. So if you try to do that, adjust situation materially, and think that that is only what is going to solve the problem, then that will never happen. Because this material world is so designed that one is supposed to be in uh, anxiety. So when Arjuna was there, in the battlefield, so that is what he told Krishna, that I cannot fight. So although he is a powerful person, a great warrior, he's saying that I cannot fight. My bow is slipping, and he was literally almost crying there. So why a person like Arjuna, who is such a great warrior, is not able to fight? So there was bewilderment there also. So which means that this world is just so designed that one has to at some point understand that no amount of my trying to adjust this situation is going to work. And then in such a situation, then he will turn towards Krishna. And that is what is supposed to happen, should happen. That one turns towards Krishna and then takes his shelter. Then that is what is going to make one free of anxieties. Then he will not, no matter what the ups and downs of life will be, he knows that his only business is to go back home, back to Godhead. And even if you imagine and you think that no, I'll try and adjust the material situation, I'll make a lot of money, I'll be happy, and I'll get a lot of wealth. Even if you get all of that, eventually you will not take anything with you. So then what are we working so hard for? Should we question? So we'll discuss more about this, because that comes in the next verse. So what a living entity is doing, and how is he situated in this world? Okay, so we'll discuss a little more about that. Any other questions or comments before we go to the next verse? Okay, so we'll decide the next verse. You can also try and repeat. Sarva karmani manasa
Sarvakarmani
Manasa
sanyasyaste sukham vashi navadvare pure dehi naiva kurvanna karayan sarva karmani manasa sanyasyaste sukham vashi
Sanyasyaste sukham vashi
navadvare pure dehi
navadvare pure dehi
naiva kurvanna karayan.
naiva kurvanna karayan.
Would any one person devotee like to recite the verse before we go to the translation? Try.
Shall I?
Yes, Guruji.
Sarva karmani manasa
Sarva karmani manasa
sanyastyaste sukham vasi
Sanyasyaste sukham vashi
navadvare pure dehi
navadvare pure dehi
naiva kurvanna karayan.
naiva kurvanna
Karayan.
I would like to read the translation.
May I, Prabhuji? Translate. When the embodies living being controls his nature and mentally renounce all the actions, he resides happily in the city of nine gates. City of nine gates, the material body, neither working nor causing work to be done.
Yes. So this verse says that when the embodied living being controls his nature, mentally renounces all actions, he resides happily in the city of nine gates, neither working nor causing work to be done. So what is this city of nine gates? The city of nine gates refers to the body, which is, there are nine gates in our body: two eyes, two nostrils, two ears, then the genitals and the anus. So the living entities in this world, in this body, which is described to be a city of nine gates. So just like, sometimes a king is there in a city and he thinks that he is ruling over the city. The city has nine gates. Similar is the position of the soul within the body. The soul within the body is like the king in the city of nine gates, and he thinks that this city or this body belongs to me, and I am the ruler here. So this is the position of the living entity. Whereas he is not the proprietor, nor is he the owner of this body. This body is only given to him, and he's supposed to act making use of the different senses that are there in the body. But he thinks and he's very strongly identifies with the body. And because he strongly identifies with the body, then that is what entangles him. So we'll read a little bit from the purport. So the embodied soul lives in the city of nine gates. The activities of the body or the figurative city of body are conducted automatically by its particular modes of nature. The soul, although subjecting himself to the conditions of the body, can be beyond those conditions if he so desires. Owing only to forgetfulness of his superior nature, he identifies with the material body and therefore suffers. By Krishna consciousness, he can revive his real position and thus come out of his embodiment. Therefore, when one takes to Krishna consciousness, one can at once become completely aloof from bodily activities. In such a controlled life, in which his deliberations are changed, he lives happily within the city of nine gates. Okay, and then the nine gates are described that we spoke about already. So what does it say here? That because of his forgetfulness, the living entity, he thinks that I am this body. And he fails to understand that he is actually not the body, he's separate from the body. He is the soul who has just been given this body, which is like the city of nine gates. And he has to gradually elevate himself. So it said, like, as soon as the living entity turns his face away from Krishna, then automatically he's entangled. He's captured by this illusory energy, where he starts thinking that I am this body and everything in relation to the body is mine. But that is not true. So like it says that owing only to forgetfulness of his superior nature, he identifies with the material body and suffers. So what this means is all the anxiety and the problems that we face in this world is actually not really our problem. But because we so strongly identify with the body, we think that these are our problems and we are suffering therefore because of our identification with the body. For example, a man is driving a car and then he has a brand new Mercedes car and he meets with an accident. And his car is damaged, from the front. And he gets so annoyed and so angry because it's not his fault while he was driving. It was a fault of the person who was driving ahead. So he immediately comes out and starts shouting and abusing and whatnot. And he almost feels like he is being hurt, although nothing happened to him. But he feels that, he is completely lost himself. And he gets very angry. He starts fighting with the person ahead. Why? Because he so strongly identifies with the car that he thinks that I am the car only. And hurting the car is like hurting me. And it actually is like that because he is so strongly attached to the car. So similarly, this body is not ours really, because this body is only temporarily given to us. And that too it's working based on, the modes of material nature. So if we acquire the mode of goodness, then the mode of goodness is what makes us act in a certain ways. If we are influenced by the mode of passion, then the mode of passion makes us act in certain ways. And if you are in the mode of ignorance, then the mode of ignorance makes us act in certain ways. So we are only given this body and we are in this body, but this body is not ours. But then we start identifying strongly with the body, and we think this is me, and this is my family, this is my relatives, this is my house, this is my job, this is my position, this is my, this designation in society or in my company or whatever it may be. So because we start identifying so strongly with something that is not us, we then have to enjoy and suffer what it goes through. So basically, if the body goes through, different, ups and downs, then we start feeling the ups and downs also. Why? Because we have identified ourselves so strongly with the body, right? So how can one get rid of this situation when he doesn't have to go through or doesn't feel the ups and downs? Is to basically elevate his consciousness and understand that he's not the body and he's actually a spirit soul who's part and parcel of Krishna, whose only duty is to serve Krishna. So when one elevates himself, in that aspect, then he can be free from the dualities of this world. So that is what the next line says. So it says, by Krishna consciousness, he can revive his real position and thus come out of this embodiment. Therefore, when one takes to Krishna consciousness, one at once becomes completely aloof from bodily activities. In such a controlled life in which deliberations are changed, he lives happily within the city of 9 gates. So now, just theoretically speaking, that I'm not the body and I'm spirit soul and I'm in this body which is not really mine, is not going to help. What is going to help is the realization of this knowledge. So we have Gyan and there is Vigyan. The knowledge is there that yes, I'm not the body, and we've been hearing that for so many months now, that I'm not the body, I'm spirit soul. But then we have to realize, come to the position of realizing that yes, I'm not this body, and then act according to that position. So how will that happen? That can only happen when one becomes more and more Krishna conscious. Then he realizes the real situation, what he really is, that he's not the body. The realization has to come. And that will come with the practice of Krishna consciousness. So when we do the practice of bhakti, that is Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Sparanam, Padasevanam, the 9 processes are there. When we engage in chanting the holy names, then all this dirt and this false identification of us with the body will go away. And then we will be able to live happily in the city of 9 gates. Right? So that is what it says here. And this is from the Sveteshwatra Upanishad, where it describes what these 9 gates are. So it says the living entity in his conditioned stage identifies himself with the body, but when he identifies himself with the Lord within himself, he just becomes free as a Lord, even while in the body. So it's possible that we can be peaceful and happy even while we are in this conditioned world, in this material body, but then our consciousness has to be elevated. So therefore it says a Krishna conscious person is free from both outer and inner activities of the material body, because now he knows that actually he is not the body. Would you like to add anything here?
Yeah, just a few examples. I think I like the point where you gave the example of the car. So that's misidentification. So if we identify ourselves with something temporary like a car or an iPhone or something, right? You need to realize that, you as a person is, having much more potential, much more value versus these temporary things which are, bound to perish even before the body perishes, right? So the more you identify, it's almost like dying every day. A scratch happened. A scratch is actually on the heart, not on the, body of the car. Example which Prabhupada gives of a lion and a deer. So there was a lion cub which actually for some reason had got mixed with a herd of deers. Now this, and then he grew up literally with the deers. So he starts identifying himself as the deer. He starts doing things. There are deers who are slightly bigger in size because it's just a lion cub right now. And they also, kind of hit him and, run away and things like that. So he's afraid of them, because those deers are a little taller, etc. Right? So one day what happens is there's a pack of lions. They attack this herd of deers. So there's a lion who's chasing all these deers, And this guy suddenly notices something very weird. He sees all the deers are running, very fast. And amongst those deers, there is a lion also running, showing the same expressions of fear like all the other deers. अरे बाकी सबको पकड़ना है ठीक है पहले इसको पकड़ता हूँ ये क्या है right, so he actually chases that lion and catches him as a young lion. Now the cub had grown up to become a young lion, and like catches him like, what is this, what are you doing, why are you afraid? And that lion was so afraid, and he was like he's like confused, why is this lion talking to me like this? So he catches him and takes him to a pond nearby and shows in the reflection, look, you're like me, right? You're not like those deers, you're like me. And when this lion sees himself in that reflection and he understands that, yes, I'm like this lion. So then this lion says, okay, now roar. So he tries, like, now roar loudly. And then he puts effort after realizing, seeing his identity, he puts effort and actually roars like a real lion. And he sees that all the animals run away. So earlier he was afraid of some other deers also. But now realizing his own identity and the potential that comes with that identity, he just roared and he saw the effect, right? So similarly, the soul has immense potential, right? The same soul runs the body of yourself, of an ant, and of an African elephant, of a dinosaur also, right? So the potential in the soul in terms of power is unlimited, even in terms of intellect, even in terms of everything. The soul has unlimited potential, literally. Right? I was just, I happened to see a video shared by a friend, and there was this girl on television. She was just 4 years old, and she could speak 7 languages. Imagine just being 4 years old, and so I was like taken aback, like, how is this possible? Right? But then I thought, yes, what is impossible? Right? Soul has so much potential. But we are the ones limiting ourselves. We are the ones who are not really using our brains. So Krishna is literally giving us a mirror. He's opening our eyes that, just like the lion showed the reflection. Krishna is giving that mirror in front of us that you are not this body, which is temporary. You are not some, tiny creature on this planet. You are the soul. You're my part and parcel. You have unlimited potential. And you don't belong in that dirty place. You actually belong in the spiritual world. So, and that's why we see pure devotees, they do wonderful things. Seems impossible. Yes, so,
Thank you, Guruji. Wonderful example. So that realization is so much important that, as Guruji was saying, that what is the potential of the soul. So, but just like, a miser person is there, he has a lot of wealth, but then he doesn't use it. So similarly, it's said that, a living entity, when he gets this human form of life, he can do so much more to realize who he is, constitutionally as spirit soul, and then use that understanding and realization to serve the Lord and serve all of humanity in that sense. So, but then because he's miserly, then he just uses that human body that he has, for his own sense gratification, sense enjoyment, living like an animal only, practically, because the animals also do the same thing, eating, sleeping, mating, defending, and the human being is also eventually doing the same thing. So then we become misers because we've been given such a wonderful opportunity, but then we are misusing that in trying to just, be happy by gratifying our senses. Right, but actually we can do so much more, and that will give us everlasting happiness. So very nice example. Thank you for sharing that. Any questions or any points anyone would like to make before we go to the next verse? Maybe we'll take 1 or 2 more verses and we'll end. Okay, so we'll recite this verse. This is verse number 14 now from chapter 5. Na kartritvam na karmani
na kartritvam na karmani
lokasya srijati prabhu phala samyogam
akarma phala samyogam
prabhavastu pravartate.
bhavastu pravartate.
Would anyone like to recite the verse?
May I, Prabhuji?
Yes, Mataji.
1 minute, it went up. 1 minute.
Mataji, you're muted. Yes.
Yes, Prabhuji, it is going up now. I'm trying to scroll it down. Na kartutvam, na kartutvam, na karmani. Lokasya sujati prabhu.
Lokasya sujati prabhu.
Na karma phalam phalayogam. Swabhavastu pravartate.
Translation, would anyone like to read?
Yes, the embodied spirit matter of the city of his body does not create activities, nor does he induce people to act, nor does he create the fruits of action. All this is enacted by the modes of material nature.
Yes. So, like we said, that all of this is enacted. So, here it says the embodied spirit master of the city of this body does not create activities, nor does he induce people to act, nor does he create the fruits of action. So, basically, he's not doing anything. He's not creating activities, nor is he inducing people to act, nor does he create fruits of action. Then, how is all of this happening? Then it says all this is enacted by the modes of material nature. So, which means because we are in this material world and we are conditioned by the three modes of material nature, and based on the mode of nature that we are being influenced by, sometimes it's goodness that is more influencing us, sometimes it's passion that is more influencing us, and sometimes it's ignorance that is more influencing us. So, based on one of these modes that have, or a combination of these modes that have an influence on us, we act accordingly and we think that we are acting. For example, if a person is influenced by the mode of passion, then he works very hard and he thinks that his working very hard is going to cause him a lot of happiness, and he becomes greedy, he becomes lusty, he becomes anger prone. These are all symptoms of a person who is influenced by the mode of passion. So he thinks that he's acting, but actually it's the mode of passion that is influencing him very strongly, and because of that he is acting in such a way. So the idea is to transcend the three modes of material nature, which is not being influenced by any of these modes, even the mode of goodness, because even the mode of goodness will entangle one to this material world. So in the mode of goodness, one is influenced. When one is influenced by the mode of goodness, then he is knowledgeable, then he is happy, because he has knowledge. So he is happily situated. But then even that entangles one to this material world. So one should go even beyond the mode of goodness. So this is the situation is very nicely described here in the last few lines in this purport. Okay, so we'll read a little bit from here. So like it says, as long as he's in the city of the body, he appears to be the master of it, but actually he's neither its proprietor nor controller of its actions and reactions. So it feels like we are the master of this body, isn't it? Like, things are under our control, but like it says here that we are not the proprietor nor the controller of its actions and reactions. He is simply in the midst of material ocean struggling for existence. The waves of the ocean are tossing him and he has no control over them. I don't know if you all can relate to this line. The waves of ocean are tossing him and he has no control over them.
Yes, Prabhuji.
So it's very often the situation that we are very often in an undesirable situation. There are so many things happening in our life. We don't want them to happen, but they happen. And then we do not know. We are just pulled in different directions, in different emotions, in different directions, here and there, almost as if like we are being tossed in an ocean. This is our position, in this material world. So, and we have no control over these situations also. Although we may want things to work favorably in our, in the way we would want it to be, it doesn't work like that. right? So we are literally being pushed and pulled in so many different directions. One of my friends, he was telling me, there was so much problem in his life once. His wife, someone had a problem in the wife's family. The wife's father was ill. At his home, his father was ill. And there's something else also happening in the family. And he was like, I'm getting pulled in so many directions, literally. And you do not know what to do. You're just getting pulled. So this is a situation in this way. We are just being tossed. And then even if there are no adverse situations like these, still sometimes emotionally we are being, tortured, maybe with the people around us. And that struggle is just constantly going on. So sometimes, like Roji was saying, we're filled with so many things in our heart: envy, pride, jealousy, anger, and these things are always there within the heart. And because of that, just to balance the situation, we try and act in so many different ways. The idea is not to try and act and then balance the situation. The idea is to get out of the ocean only completely. So that is what this says. So the waves of ocean are tossing him and he has no control over them. So this material world is very often described as Bhavasagar, which means a whole material ocean. And it's not possible to cross over this ocean, just by swimming. If you are an expert swimmer, you can swim, but then you cannot cross a whole ocean just by your expert swimming. So one should understand that, yes, the nature of this material world is that there will be ups and downs. And that is what Krishna tells Arjuna in the second chapter, that this heat and cold, summer and winter, the ups and downs will come, but you must tolerate it, right? Which means you should know that this is going to happen in this world, and then not be deviated from our duties. What is our duty? The primary duty of the living entity is to engage himself in Krishna consciousness. So through the ups and downs, one should be just trying to fix himself, remind himself that my primary duty is to serve the Supreme Lord. And when one does that, then automatically it will not affect, so much the ups and downs that are there. And we will be eventually be able to cross over this ocean of material existence also, right? So like it says here, his best solution is to get out of the water by transcendental Krishna consciousness. That alone will save him from all turmoil. Right? So this is the position of, the living entities in this world. It's very unfortunate if one feels that, he can be very happy in this world. Then a person like that is in ignorance. Sometimes, if devotees describe the temporary nature or the miserable position of this material world, then the materialistic people, they feel that, Array, why are you being so pessimistic? Why are you talking so negative? But that is not pessimistic, that's just realistic. That is how this world is. But what happens is, because just like, Hamara Mumbai ka local hai, people know that it's going to be inside. They've accepted it and they live it like, live like that only, accepting that this Mumbai local is going to be like hellish only inside. So they've learned to live with it. Similarly, sometimes in this world, we learn to live with all the problems. We know that, okay, the problem doesn't matter, we will still try and gratify our senses, still try and be happy. So our perpetual struggle goes on. So that is what it says here, struggling for existence. So we are in a perpetual struggle, trying to become happy in this world, which is not meant for giving us happiness. So it can still be a place of full happiness and peace and bliss, but that is only when one turns towards Krishna, and turns towards serving the Lord. Then this world can be a happy place even while we are living in this world, right? So otherwise it's not possible. So the living entity, he has so many desires within his heart. And what those desires are, we should try and sometimes, analyze. What are the desires that are coming in my heart? There are hundreds and hundreds of desires that keep sprouting within the heart. And we should try and think and analyze that, what is it that I'm truly desiring? Okay, since morning I woke up, and what were the thoughts and ideas that came to my mind? Were those desires in line with Krishna consciousness? Were those material desires? Am I desiring to be materially successful? Am I desiring to be, having a high position in society? Am I desiring respect and honor from people around me? Am I desiring wealth? Am I desiring fame? So we should try and analyze that. What are the different desires that are there, within us? And is there any desire that actually I have within my heart, which is for the higher purpose of, serving the Lord or becoming Krishna conscious? because that is the only thing that is actually going to save us. So if that is not happening, that our desire is not to serve the Lord, then we will still remain like this only, trying to, swim across this ocean where, we're trying to somehow reach the shore, but it's almost impossible. It's such a huge, vast ocean. Right? So when we turn towards Krishna, then automatically all problems will be solved, and we can be happily situated. But without that, it's like an impossible feat that one can be happy. And if someone is trying to show themselves that, no, I'm very happy in this world, you have no idea. It's just an illusion. You can say Hare Krishna and move on because it's not possible to be happy. Yes, Mataji, you want to share something? Priyanka Mataji?
So sorry, no, Prabhuji.
Would you like to add anything?
Not sure, Prabhu. I think you can move on.
So I thought
It's so nicely written, Prabhuji, City of Nine. It's so nicely written. I mean, no one can even think City of Nine Gates. And such a nice description beyond imagination.
You can
Very
maybe
nice.
talk about the story of Puranjan. To remember.
Yeah, there's a whole story of King Puranjan in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So it's a big story, and I'm still reading it. So I have not reached the end, but so Narad Muni, there's a king, and Prachina Bhari, his name is, and he's too much entangled in material consciousness, just like I am, and most of us, are struggling with this material consciousness. So Narad Muni does not go and directly tell him that, what you're doing, foolish king, come out of this material consciousness, become a devotee. Because he knows that he's too much engrossed in material consciousness, he'll not be able to understand. So he tells him another story. And this story is of King Puranjan, which is actually not King Puranjan, it's King Prachina Bhari only. But in the story, it's King Puranjan. So he's indirectly trying to tell him what your situation is. And this king, then he's described as, living in a city of 9 gates, how he uses these 9 gates for different purposes. So it's actually the senses, the 9 senses, the 9 holes rather, and how the different holes are being used. And how then the king, engages in sinful activities, abandoning his queen, which is represented by intelligence. So, which means he gives up his intelligence and he engages in sinful activities. And then he is very attached to the queen. At the end of his life, he thinks of the queen, and because he thinks of the queen, he becomes a woman in the next life, and so on. It goes on like that. So Narad Muni is basically telling a story which is symbolic in nature, and what is the position of the king. Through the story, he is telling that. It's a very beautiful story. We can maybe sometime discuss that more in depth. So there also this comes, the city of 9 gates. So Narad Muni tells him that this king was living in a city of 9 gates. 2 gates are on the east, or 4 gates are on the east, which means the eyes, the nostrils, the north and the south, and like that the description goes on. So I think we'll stop here. There is one Vaishnav song. We can probably sing this. It's a beautiful song. And then we'll end with this and the recitation of one chapter. So this is a song by Lochan Das Thakur. It's called Ki Javi Bhai. So you can also try and sing along or after. Are you able to see the song on the screen?
Yes, Prabhu.
So a very beautiful song. Ki jabe bhai, Bhava Sindhu Par.
Jabe Bhava Sindhu Par.
Ki jabe bhai, Bhava Sindhu Par.
के जावे भाई भव सिंधु
धन्या काली युगे चैतन्य अवतार
धन्य चैतन्य
अवतार
धन्य काली युगे चैतन्य अवतार
कली युगे चैतन्यावतार
हमारा गौरांगेर घाटे आकांक्षेयवाय
আমার গৌরাঙ্গের ঘাটে আদান খেয়বায়া
जरान्धा आतुरा अवधि पारः
জড়
अंधकातुरा अवधि पराया
हरिनामे नौका खानी श्री गुरु कंदारी
হরি নামের নৌকা খানি গুরু কান্দারি
संकीर्तना केरोयला दुबाहु पशारी
সংকীর্তনা কেরোয়ালা দুবাহু পসারি
सब जीव हैला पारा प्रेमीरवाकाशे
अब जीव हैला पारा मेरा बतासे
परियारहीला लोचान अपनार दोषे
बढ़िया रहीला लोचना अपनार दोषे
की जाबे भाई भव सिंधु पार
के जाबी भाई भव सिंधु पार
धन्य काली युगेरा चैतन्य अवतार
धन्य कली युगेरा चैतन्यावतार
Hare Krishna. It's a beautiful song. We just read the translation quickly. So, ki jabi bhai. Who will go? Who will go, brothers? Who will cross over this ocean of material suffering? This Kali Yuga in which Sri Chaitanya Avatar has appeared is blessed. At the bathing place of Gauranga, of my Gauranga, a free ferry boat is waiting. There is no restriction. Everyone is coming, including the lame, blind, and distressed. All are climbing aboard to cross over. Harinam is the boat, Sri Guru is the helmsman, and the Sankirtan party moving up with upraised arms are the oars. All souls can cross over with the favorable winds of prema. Only Lochan Das is so unfortunate that due to his own fault, he has been left behind. So very quickly, this song talks again, compares this world to be an ocean of material suffering. And so it is asking who will come, who wants to go across this ocean of material suffering. And it's very fortunate that in this Kali Yuga, Chaitanya Avatar has appeared. Why? Because at the bathing place of Gauranga, a free boat is waiting. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is bought a free boat, with him. And in this boat, everyone can climb and cross over the ocean of material existence. So it's saying that everyone, including the lame, blind, distressed, no matter who it is, without any qualification, he can just jump on this boat and cross over. And then how is this? What is this boat? This boat is the Harinam, which is chanting the holy names. So when one chants, then he is actually on this boat, which is going to take him across this ocean of material suffering. And in this boat, who is the boatman? Sri Guru. So he is the boatman, and he is an expert boatman. So he's steering us across this ocean of material existence. So there are so many ups and downs, but because if the disciple or the living entity, he keeps himself in line with the instructions of the spiritual master, then he'll be very easily able to cross over. So no matter the ups and downs and the allurements and whatnot in this suffering, in this material world, in this material ocean, he can very easily cross over because Sri Guru is the boatman, he's the helmsman, and he is an expert person. So he can very expertly drive and or take this boat across all the different ups and downs that may be there in the ocean. And the Sankirtan party moving with upraised arms are the oars. So the Sankirtan movement that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu started is the oars. That is what is going to take us forward, across this material ocean. And all souls can cross over with favorable winds of prema. So Lochan Das Thakur is sung this song, and he's of course taking a very humble position, saying that I have been left behind. But actually, that's the position of us. If we do not take opportunity of this human form of life and take to the process of chanting the holy names, which is the boat, then we'll be left behind in this material world, in this material ocean. Thank you. So we'll, if there are any questions, or we'll otherwise recite one chapter of Bhagavad Gita like we do. See, which chapter are we to recite today?
Chapter.
Sorry?
Sixth chapter.
I'll just open 6th chapter.
I think there should be 47 verses, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, yes, Vijay. Should we do half or?
No, we are 11. So 4, I think we can finish off. Not going to take a lot of time.
Okay. So I'll just present my screen.
Yeah.
The order we have to see. See if I can quickly write the order. Hare Krishna, Roshni, welcome. You joining for the first time today?
Shri Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Joining for the first time today?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Are you from Mumbai?
Yeah, Mumbai.
Okay, that's very nice. So we are just almost reaching the end of today's session. But towards the end, we recite one more chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. So it will be nice if you can also join in this. And so we start the session at 11. 11 to 1 is generally when we.
Yeah.
How did you come to know about the session?
My sister is into this, so she sent me the link. So actually, I saw it right now, so I joined in.
And who's your sister?
Urvashi Jageshiya from Bombay only.
Okay.
She has done Gita 18 chapters already. Second time she is doing it again.
Okay, so I've put the names. We can try and follow this order in the chat box. So we can start with Krishna Prabhu. So everyone can read 4 words. The translation, it's there on the screen. So this is chapter 6, Dhyana Yoga. Krishna Prabhu, yes, you can start. Krishna Prabhu?
Yes,
Yes, really. First words, you can start with the first 4 verses.
Supreme Personality of Godhead said, one who is unattached to the fruits of his work and who works as he is obligated is in the renounced order of life, and he is the true mystic, not he who lights no fire and performs no duty. Text 2, what is called renunciation you should know to be the same as yoga or linking oneself with the Supreme. O son of Pandu, for one can never become a yogi unless he renounces the desire for sense gratification. Text 3, for one who is a neophyte in the Eightfold Yoga system, work is said to be the means, and for one who is already elevated in yoga, cessation of all material activities is said to be the means. Text 4, a person is said to be elevated in yoga when, having renounced all material desires, he never acts for sense gratification or engages in fruitive activities.
Balmukund Prabhu, text 5 onwards, 5 to 8. Balmukund Prabhu is here.
You're speaking on mute, Prabhuji.
One must deliver himself with the help of his mind and not degrade himself. The mind is the friend of the conditioned soul and his enemy as well. For him who has conquered the mind is the best of friends. But for one who has failed to do so, his mind will remain the greatest enemy. For one who has conquered the mind, the super soul is already reached, for he has attained tranquility. To such a man, happiness and distress, heat and cold, honor and dishonor are all the same. A person is said to be established in self-realization and is called a yogi or mystic when he is fully satisfied by virtue of acquired knowledge and realization. Such a person is situated in transcendence and is self-controlled. He sees everything, whether it be pebbles, stones, or gold, as the same. Hare Krishna.
Kavita Mataji, 90.
Yeah. To practice yoga, one should go to the scheduled place and should lay coarse grass on the ground, and then cover it with the
Text 9 onwards. 9.
Text 9.
text 9, Prabhuji. Okay.
9, 10, 11, 12.
Okay, Prabhuji. A person is considered still further advanced when he regards the honest, well-wishers, affectionate benefactors, the neutral mediator, the envious friends, and enemy, the poet, and the sinner, all with an equal mind. Text number 10. A transcendentalist should always engage his body, mind, and self in relationship with the Supreme. He should live alone in a scheduled place and should always carefully control his mind and self. control his mind. He should be possessiveness. Text number 12, 11, 12. Prabhuji, I have to read 11, 12 also, no?
Yes, yes.
To practice yoga, one should go to a scheduled place and should lay pusa grass on the ground and uh, then cover it with the deer skin and a soft cloth. The seat should be neither too high nor too low and should be situated in a sacred place. The yogi should be then sit on it very firmly and practice yoga to purify the heart by controlling his mind, sense and activities and fixing the mind on one point. Hare Krishna.
Pankaj Prabhu, 13 to 16.
Yes, Prabhuji. One should hold one's body, neck, and head erect in a straight line and stare steadily at the tip of the nose. Thus, with an unagitated, subdued mind, devoid of fear, completely free from sex life, one should meditate upon me within the heart and make me ultimate goal of life. Thus, practicing constant control of the body, mind, and activities, the mystic transcendentalist, his mind regulated, attains to the kingdom of the God or abode of Krishna by cessation of material existence. There is no possibility of one's becoming a yogi, O Arjuna, if one eats too much or eats too little, sleeps too much or does not sleep enough.
Can I start, Prabhuji?
Yes, yes, please.
Yeah. He who is regulated in his habits of eating, sleeping, recreation, and work can mitigate all material pains by practicing the yoga system. When the yogi, by practice of yoga, disciplines his mental activities and becomes situated in transcendence, devoid of all material desires, he is said to be well established in yoga. As a lamp in a
Windless.
windless place does not waver, so the transcendentalist whose mind is controlled remains always steady in his meditation on the transcendent self. In the stage of perfection called trance or samadhi, one's mind is completely restrained from material mental activities by practice of yoga. This perfection is characterized by one's ability to see the self by the pure mind and to relish and rejoice in the self. In that joyous state, one is situated in boundless transcendental happiness realized through transcendental senses. Established thus, one never departs from truth, and upon gaining this, he thinks there is no greater gain. Being situated in such a position, one is shaken. One is never shaken, even in the midst of greatest difficulty. Thus, indeed, in actual freedom from all miseries arising from material contact.
One should engage oneself in the practice of yoga with determination and faith and not be deviated from the path. One should abandon without exception all material desires born of mental speculation and thus control all the senses on all sides by the mind. Gradually, step by step, one should become situated in trance by means of intelligence sustained by full conviction, and thus the mind should be fixed on the self alone and should think of nothing else. From wherever the mind wanders due to its flickering and unsteady nature, one must certainly withdraw it and bring it back under the control of the self. The yogi whose mind is fixed on me verily attains the highest perfection of transcendental happiness. He is beyond the mode of passion. He realizes his qualitative identity with the Supreme, and thus he is freed from all reactions to past deeds.
Hare Krishna. Thus, the self-controlled yogi constantly engaged in yoga practice becomes free from all material contamination and achieves the highest stage of perfect happiness in transcendental loving service to the Lord. A true yogi observes me in all beings and also sees every being in me. Indeed, the self-realized person sees me, the same Supreme Lord everywhere. For one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, I am never lost, nor is he ever lost to me. Such a yogi who engages in the worshipful service of the Super Soul, knowing that I and the Super Soul are one, remains always in me in all circumstances. Hare Krishna.
He's a perfect yogi who, by comparison to his own self, sees the true equality of all beings in both their happiness and their distress. O Arjuna, Arjuna said, O Madhusudana, the system of yogi which you have summarized appears impractical and unendurable to me, for the mind is restless and unsteady. The mind is restless, turbulent, obstinate, and very strong. O Krishna, and to subdue it, I think, is more difficult than controlling the wind. Lord Krishna said, O mighty armed son of Kunti, it is undoubtedly very difficult to curb the restless mind, but it is possible by suitable practice and by detachment. Hare Krishna.
Subramaniam Prabhu. Subramaniam Prabhu.
Yeah, for one whose mind is unbridled, self-realization is difficult work, but he whose mind is controlled and who strives by appropriate means is assured of success. That is my opinion. Arjuna said, "Oh Krishna, what is the destination of the unsuccessful transcendentalist who in the beginning takes to the process of self-realization with faith, but who later desists due to worldly mindedness, and thus does not attain perfection in mysticism. O mighty armed Krishna, does not a man who is bewildered from the path of transcendence all away from both spiritual and material success and perish like a riven cloud with no position in any sphere? This is my doubt, O Krishna, and ask you to dispel it completely. But for you, no one is to be found who can destroy this doubt."
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, son of, oh, just wait a minute, bro. Yeah. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, son of Pritha, a transcendentalist engaged in auspicious activities does not meet with destruction either in this world or in the spiritual world. One who does good, my friend, is never overcome by evil. The unsuccessful yogi, after many, many years of enjoyment on the planets of the pious living entities, is born into a family of righteous people or in a family of rich aristocracy. Or if unsuccessful after long practice of yoga, he takes his birth in a family of transcendentalists who are sure to be great in wisdom. Certainly, such a birth is rare in this world. On taking such a birth, he revives the divine consciousness of his previous life and he again tries to make further progress in order to achieve complete success. O son of Kuru.
By virtue of the divine consciousness of his previous life, he automatically becomes attracted to the yogic principles, even without seeking them. Such an inquisitive transcendentalist stands always above the ritualistic principles of the scriptures. And when the yogi engages himself with sincere endeavor in making further progress, being washed of all contaminations, then ultimately achieving perfection after many, many births of practice, he attains the supreme goal. A yogi is greater than an ascetic, greater than the empress, and greater than the fruitive worker. Therefore, O Arjuna, in all circumstances be a yogi. And of all yogis, the one with great faith who always abides in me, thinks of me within himself, and renders transcendental loving service to me. He is the most intimately united with me in yoga and is the highest of all. That is my opinion. Hare Krishna. Shri Bhagavad Gita Chp.